Hello everyone. Did you know that water can make people sick in four completely different ways, not just by drinking it? Today we are going to explore the global spectrum of water related diseases, an ecological and taxonomic field guide to the pathogens, vectors, and pollutants mediated by water. Water related diseases can be understood through what we call the fluid blueprint, which classifies illnesses into four distinct categories. The first is water as a carrier, referring to water-borne diseases, where the mechanism is ingestion of contaminated water. The second is water as a void, referring to water-washed diseases, where the mechanism is lack of water and inadequate personal hygiene. The third is water as a habitat, referring to water-based and vector-borne diseases, where the mechanism involves intermediate aquatic organisms and insect breeding grounds. The fourth is water as a solvent, referring to chemical pollutants, where the mechanism involves industrial and agricultural contaminants that bioaccumulate or resist purification. Let us look closer at water as a carrier, which represents the ingestion pathway. The classical waterborne diseases are transmitted directly through the ingestion of water contaminated by pathogenic bacteria or viruses, originating from human or animal feces or urine. Developing countries carry a heavy burden of these water related illnesses, with diarrheal diseases representing the heaviest global toll. Among the bacterial invaders responsible for waterborne disease, cholera is caused by the Vibrio bacterium, and it is capable of causing severe, rapid dehydration through profuse watery diarrhea. Typhoid and paratyphoid fever are caused by Salmonella bacteria, leading to prolonged fever and systemic illness. Bacillary dysentery and shigellosis are caused by Shigella bacteria, leading to severe intestinal inflammation and bloody diarrhea. Escherichia coli or E. coli diarrhea is caused by certain strains of E. coli bacteria, which are a major cause of diarrhea illness, particularly in children. Beyond bacteria, there are also viral and leptospiral agents responsible for waterborne disease. Among viral agents, we have viral hepatitis A, viral hepatitis E, polymyelitis, and rotavirus diarrhea, which specifically impacts infants. Among leptospiral agents, we have Wales disease, which is caused by leptospiral presence in contaminated water. There are also protozoal and helminthic groups involved in waterborne transmission. The protozoal group includes amoebiasis and giardiasis. The helminthic group includes roundworm, threadworm, and hydatid disease. The shared mechanism across both groups involves a cyst or egg present in contaminated water, which is then ingested and colonizes the human gastrointestinal tract. Now let us move to water-washed diseases. These diseases occur due to the inadequate use or sheer lack of water. Poor personal hygiene, in the absence of washing water, creates an environment where pathogens thrive on the body surface. It is worth noting that the majority of waterborne diseases, which spread through ingestion, are simultaneously water-washed diseases, since lack of hygiene accelerates their spread. Water-washed diseases show up as cutaneous and ocular manifestations. Ocular infections include trachoma and conjunctivitis. Dermal infections include scabies, skin sepsis, ulcers, and yaws. There is also a group of vectors linked to water-washed diseases, and these vectors do not actually breed in water, but rather their populations on human hosts explode in the absence of regular washing and hygiene. This includes flea-borne diseases, lice-borne diseases, and tick-borne diseases, with severity increasing as hygiene degrades under conditions of severe water scarcity. Let us now look at water-based diseases, where pathogens live within intermediate aquatic organisms and infection spreads through contact or ingestion. The main disease focus here is schistosomiasis. The mechanism involves an essential part of the infectious agent's life cycle taking place specifically within aquatic snails. before seeking a human host through contact with the water. This creates a cycle where the pathogen moves from the aquatic snail, which acts as an intermediate host, to human contact or water exposure and then back again. Within water based diseases, we also have cyclops and aquatic hosts as transmission points. The primary threat here is guinea worm or dracunculiasis, which is hosted within the cyclops organism. The secondary threat is fish tapeworm and other related helminths that require intermediate aquatic animals to complete their life cycle. Moving on to water related diseases, we have mosquito borne vectors, which are disease carrying insects that depend on breeding in or near water sources. This group includes arboviruses, filariasis, encephalitides, dengue, yellow fever, and malaria, all of which rely on mosquitoes breeding in standing water. We also have fly-borne vectors under water-related diseases. Disease 1 is onchocerciasis, also known as river blindness, which is linked to a turbulent flowing water habitat. Disease 2 is African trypanosomiasis, also known as sleeping sickness, which is also linked to fly-borne transmission near water bodies. It is important to distinguish here that mosquito-borne diseases are linked to standing water habitats, while fly-borne diseases like river blindness are linked to turbulent flowing water habitats. Now let us shift our focus to water as a solvent, representing the chemical spectrum of contamination. The threat here comes from pollutants originating from industrial and agricultural wastes, including detergent solvents, cyanides, heavy metals, organic acids, nitrogenous substances, bleaching agents, dyes, pigments, sulfides, ammonia, and biocides. The complication with these chemical pollutants is that they cause non-specific, difficult to detect long-term health effects from low-level exposure. They evade and are not easily removed by conventional water purification processes, and they also affect health indirectly by bioaccumulating in aquatic life, such as fish, which is later used for human food. Let us look at a specific example of this chemical threat, which is the fluoride balance. At levels below 1 mg per liter, there is an elevated risk of dental caries or tooth decay. At around 1 mg per liter, this is considered the optimal zone, which protects against dental caries. At high levels, fluoride enters a toxic zone, which causes mottling of the dental enamel. Another important chemical concern involves nitrates and infant cyanosis. The trigger for this begins when surface water from farmland treated with fertilizers gains access to the water supply. The result is that high nitrate content in the water leads to methemoglobinemia in infants, also known as cyanosis. Though this condition is rare, it represents a direct agricultural to human chemical toxicity pathway. Interestingly, not all mineral content in water is harmful, and this brings us to the paradox of water hardness. While chemical pollution is clearly a hazard, the natural hardness of water caused by dissolved minerals appears to have a beneficial protective effect against cardiovascular diseases, with cardiovascular disease incidence generally decreasing as water hardness increases. To bring everything together, the fluid blueprint synthesis organizes water-related diseases into 4 clear categories. The biological and direct category covers water as a carrier through ingestion, including cholera, typhoid, and viral or parasitic infections. The biological and indirect category covers water as a void through scarcity and hygiene, including trachoma, scabies, and non-aquatic vectors. The ecological category covers water as a habitat involving hosts and proximity, including schistosomiasis, malaria, and dengue. The chemical category covers water as a solvent involving industrial and agricultural contamination, including bioaccumulation, cyanosis, and fluoride mottling. As the World Health Organization's environmental health criteria remind us, evaluating the health effects of these pollutants and pathogens requires determining a level of balance that permits economic and social development without presenting hazards to human health. Hope you have understood about the global spectrum of water related diseases. If you found this video useful, please watch and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.